Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. Podcast guests show up on purpose. They are ready to impact the world. Let Media Package convert your interview into a 2-page feature article in a leading women's leadership magazine. Over 40,000 readers. Tell your story. Expand your reach. Media Package. Details are in the show notes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Well, inspiration. That's what I'm bringing to you today. And if this lady does not inspire you to drop off the weights that so easily beset you, if this lady does not make you get up off of your couch and just go headlong into what you want to do, your passion, I don't know what will. Today's conversation is with a boxer. Yes, a boxer, award-winning journalist, and author of a book. I'm reading this because I don't want to miss anything. She's the author of a book that walks you through the career of a female trailblazer. I'm talking about a boxer, a female trailblazer. Our conversation today is with Alicia Doyle. Hey, let's just bring Alicia in. Thank you for being here today. I am so glad to share this time with you, Alicia.
Oh, good morning, Margot. It's so nice to chat with you as well. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know how you're so cool, calm, and collected because I'm like a little kid. I'm not an avid boxing fan. That's what's blowing my mind. My grandson watches boxing. He says, "Grandma, you don't want to watch this part. It's violent." I said, "Yeah, you're right." But when you sent over the book and you just immediately drew me in, it was just amazing. So let's take people from the very beginning. You are an award-winning journalist. So one day you are there at it's in the evening, I believe, and
Yes.
Everybody else is gone. You're there, ring, ring, ring. A phone call comes through. Would you say that this phone call was your defining moment as far as getting into being a boxer?
That is such a great question because looking back on this, I do not believe it was an accident. It was no coincidence that I just happened to be in the newsroom that night and I just happened to be the only one to pick up the phone because that was a woman in the community. She was a community activist seeking coverage for a boxing gym for at-risk youth that was destroyed by El Nino rains. This was back in the 80s. Or actually back in the 1990s. And the minute she said boxing and boxing gym, I turned off because back then I used to view boxing as the dark side. I never understood what a beautiful thing this sport was and how it could change somebody from the inside out. But that assignment I reluctantly went on, and that was my first introduction on the beauty of this sport and the depth of this sport and how it could change somebody for the better. Speaking mostly about at-risk youth, when the gym was destroyed, they had nowhere to go. So that pulled at my heart a bit. I thought, at-risk youth, they need somewhere to go. And so that's why I went on this assignment. But that was my introduction to this sport that I fell in love with, and boxing eventually became my salvation.
Oh my goodness. And we're going to dig into that. Boxing, when you said you answered the phone call and that woman was just almost begging you to come and give them some coverage. Had you not followed through, we never would have access to your book, Fighting Chance. So I am grateful that you answered the call. So take us on along. You go over and you take a look at what's going on, the devastation over at the gym. And are you at liberty to give us the name of the gym and where it's located?
Absolutely. Yes. So the name of the gym is Kid Gloves Boxing. They are still around. So that's the name of the gym. And they cater to youth who for the most part, I'd say 99% of them come from broken homes. Some of these kids were in gangs. They just needed a lot more attention for the trauma they were going through. And this boxing gym was the place for them to be. It was the place that loved them unconditionally. But there were rules in place. The kids had to do their homework. There was no swearing allowed. If they did those things and they, dotted their I's and crossed their T's, they were allowed to train there for free alongside champions. And they were given this unconditional love in this sober environment where they felt safe. So yes, if I hadn't understood what it had done for these kids, and after going on that assignment, I ended up doing more stories on this gym called Kid Gloves Boxing, and it's in Simi Valley, California, because I was intrigued by how something that I viewed as so violent could bring out the best in these children. And what I realized later, after getting into the game and competing myself, that boxing was not about getting hurt or hurting another person. It was about honing your inner strength and finding out just all the empowerment that one has on the inside. That's really what it's about. And I know that's a blanket answer for a very deep question of how boxing became my salvation, but I did not expect boxing to change me, not only physically, but spiritually and emotionally. And it made me a stronger person. And it helped me understand that for me, the fight started from within. But if I faced it head on, that the battle is sublime.
And this opportunity for you to face your inner demons, because you had some major battles going on with yourself from things that happened in your childhood. All of this, I call it reinvention, happened at age 28. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh,
I did not start competing. I was 28 years old. So, I mean, for an athlete, that's considered old.
uh-huh.
And back then, so every single competitor I stepped in the ring with was younger than I. Some of these girls were a decade younger than I was. So yes, it was absolutely a point of reinvention, but it also forced me to look at all these, what I considered at the time, shadow parts of myself, these dark pieces of myself that, frankly, I didn't tell anybody about. Most people who knew me had no idea I had gone through these things. And because of Kid Gloves and because of the vulnerability that I was shown by these children and even their parents and caregivers, I thought that's the beautiful point of it. It's that vulnerability that we all share as human beings. That's the one common denominator. And I thought, I need to share my vulnerability because I believe that it might help somebody else. But the sport is what brought that all out of me. And it really made me look at what was going on the inside of me. I did not expect that sport to do that to me, but it did. And I'm so grateful for it because it did change me from the inside out. To this day, I retired in 2000. So to this day, the lessons I learned in boxing and in that ring, which I consider the ring of life, everything I learned in boxing is a metaphor for how to address life.
Yes. Oh, beautifully put. Beautifully put. And when one reads your book, I mean, I am looking at how you weave in the things that hurt you so deeply as a child, how you bring them into your training, how you bring them into the ring, how you bring them into your new life. You're 28 years old, still working as a reporter and at a newspaper, and you train fiercely. I mean, just all in, immersed for 2 years solid. So that alone, the mindset of a boxer, the discipline of a boxer, all of that worked together to shape you, would you say?
Absolutely, it did. And I was surprised by how much it took a hold of me as well. I literally became addicted to boxing. I became addicted to the training because it made me feel better. And what actually got me into take an aerobic boxing class the first time, because the owner of Kid Gloves Boxing, his name is Robert Ortiz. He's still around. He still runs the gym. But 20 years ago, he was always encouraging me to take an aerobic boxing class, which is no contact boxing. You're not getting hit, but you get to punch a bag for a while. And what got me into the gym that day was I actually went through a very volatile breakup with a boy who punched me in the face more than once. And needless to say, I was pretty angry about that. So I wanted to hit something hard over and over again. I was so angry that I allowed this to happen to me, that I allowed myself to be in a violent relationship, that I became this statistic. It was really, I was very ashamed of that. So I go to the gym, I hit that heavy bag for an hour, and I felt better. And that was really a turning point for me, because I found something that quieted the demons in my head. And it was that training, because the training and it was so hard. These workouts were so hard. I had no room in my mind for anything else. And that became a respite for me. So before I knew it, I was taking 2-3 aerobic boxing classes in a row, 6 days a week. And eventually boxing coaches from other gyms started to notice my level of training. And because I was a female, and there weren't that many women training at the level that I was, I started to get quite a bit of attention. And that's what put the seed in my brain to start competing when a man named Stan Ward approached me and asked me if I'd ever thought about competing. He informed me that only a few hundred women in America were boxing at the time. Women were not allowed to box in the Olympics back then. There was a lot of disparity between female and male boxers. So I thought, not only would this be fun, but it would also give me a higher purpose to be one of few women in the sport, trailblazing for other women who also wanted to box equally like the men.
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what happened. You went on to, in the book, it takes me back to it kind of caught you off guard. Your very first, it wasn't a match. I think it was a sparring opportunity, but this is where you really kind of cut your teeth. Will you take us there? Because even while you're training hard, you have gained the attention and the respect of our coaches and many men in this field. And now comes the opportunity to really take some punches and give some punches. And will you tell us what that's all about, please?
Oh, well, that was really a test, because, boxer and athlete can train and train and train, but the real test is getting in there with an opponent. Okay. So yes, that first fight, and I do in the book, my book includes every single fight. I remember every fight like it was yesterday. This was 20 years ago, and I remember every fight, every opponent, these incredible female warriors that stepped in the ring with me. I honor them all in this book. But yes, that first match, my first test to see if I could move forward in the sport, it's called an exhibition. And an exhibition, so you still wear headgear, you wear big gloves, and it's not supposed to count on the books. But, I'm stepping in there with an opponent. So I find out, this was at the Boys and Girls Clubs in Simi Valley. I find out that my opponent on the day of the fight, I find out that she's a kickboxing champ, which, scared the daylights out of me. But, I got boys and coaches from other gyms. They're all in the audience. They're all watching. And some people, I got to say, showed up to see me fall. That's just the nature of sports. Some people showed up to get me knocked out. So I step in the ring with this incredible warrior. She's in the book. Her name's Layla McCarter. And I do need to mention my book is nonfiction. Everything that happened in the book happened. Layla McCarter is a numerous time world champion now, but she was the first girl that I got in the ring with. And she was a teenager when I stepped in the ring with her. So yes, that was my first initiation. And I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I did get a standing 8 count in that fight.
And what's a standing 8? What's a standing 8 count?
A standing 8 count is imposed when one fighter is in danger of being knocked out. So when that happens, the referee will stop the fight, send one opponent back to her corner, and then the fighter they think is going to get knocked out, me, they count down to 8. They stand a standing 8 count. So it's a count of 8. And if I'm still standing at the end of that 8 count, it means I can go on, that the ref can decide whether or not I can go on. So during those 8 seconds, we're talking about 8 seconds, I had to decide if I wanted to go on. And believe me, I did not want to go on. I wanted to run out of that ring and go home and, and cry on my pillow and never go back again. But something inside me told me to keep going. And I lasted the 3 rounds. Layla and I went our separate ways without saying a word to each other. But, and again, not to give away any spoilers, I ended up facing off with Layla again when I joined amateurs. So it's just, there was all these amazing serendipitous things that occurred in the sport. There's an involvement of the people that I knew, these incredible coaches. And yes, the book is about boxing. Yes. And it's exciting. Women in boxing is exciting, but the book is much deeper than that. You know, it's a spiritual journey. It's a journey of vulnerability, a journey of strength, and a story of overcoming.
Well, I'm looking, you know what? I don't want to cut you off, but I'm looking at before the time gets away. That's the part that I really want to hone back on. There's plenty of action as far as boxing goes, but there's also plenty of action as far as you moving spiritually and you moving psychologically through the levels of boxing and coming to grips with some things that happen to you with in your family as a child. Do you feel through your boxing career, the two were the sport and you, Alicia Doyle, were married together and all of you was right there in the ring? What's the final assessment of your journey when you were so immersed into the sport? That make any sense?
Yes, absolutely. And it taught me that I could face any battle and come through on the other side. And I'm not talking about a physical battle. I'm talking about a mental and an emotional and a spiritual battle. This overcoming of my insecurities, this embracing of my shadow side. I had to discover the importance of learning how to love myself because nobody was going to do that for me. And it's very hard to articulate how the sport of boxing did this for me, but it did. And it continues to transform my life to this day because it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. And I translate that to anything because nothing is as hard for me as stepping in the ring with an opponent who wants to take me out. Well, I can view that and equate that to life. You know, life can be a battle. It can be. But if we stand tall and we face it head on, we will come through on the other side. And we will become stronger as a result. And that will translate to every other aspect of life.
Gosh, that well put. What can I say? It is a battle, and life. If we don't prepare ourselves, and if we don't train, if we don't move along succinctly, then fighting chance. Yeah, life will ask us. We'll ask life, "Can I have a fighting chance?" I want to make sure that everybody understands the depth of your work as a boxer. You won 2 Golden Glove championship titles. You earned 3 wins by knockout. I definitely want to ask you, what did that feel like? Probably like a champion indeed. And your pro debut at age 30. I mean, you took this on and really debuted. Gosh, in 2000, you were named the California Female Fight of the Year. Gosh, Fighting Chance offers an inside look at what's considered the toughest sport known to man, and that is boxing. I do believe it is one heck of a sport. Alicia, can I read something that author Brent Weber said about your book?
Oh, I'd love that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Says Fighting Chance is highly recommended to any adult or young adult, noting that there is profanity, just like you would hear in a boxing ring. So it's not for tender ears. Boxing fans will love it, but so will anyone, particularly any woman who wonders which way to look when knocked down to the canvas. Man, ain't that the truth? How many
Yes.
of us have not been knocked down to the canvas?
Yes, yes. And what matters is that we get up.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
life is going to knock us down sometimes, but I don't believe that I was being punished or anything like that. I just believe that I came into this world at a certain point in time where I was supposed to learn a lot of lessons. And this is something, you know, that I've just come to realize. And because of that, and as hard as some of those things, those lessons were, I don't regret any of it. I have no resentment towards anyone because all those things, and especially those hard things, that's what made me who I am today. So now I can look back at those hard times and look and view them as incredible blessings.
Yes.
And steps to put me toward this, you know, the lighter side. And so now I look back at all those pieces and all those traumas, and I'm so grateful for all of them because they made me who I am today.
My God. And the boxer that you trained and you became one heck of a fighter. I'm going to make sure that some of the footage that you sent over is accompanied in the show notes, and people have to see. You were just like a terror. Had I seen you in the ring, hey, standing eight, I would have went down. No doubt. I would have been shaking in my boots. But you know what? I look at when we put it all together, I want to let everybody know something really special happened for you in 2020 on April the 5th. Do you want to break that news? What really happened with you, your book, Fighting Chance? And yeah, this is a true story. Somebody caught wind of it, and tell everybody what's going on now.
Yes. So my book was released on February 14th on Valentine's Day. And this was before COVID was in full force with the pandemic. And I didn't expect it. I had a lot of plans, a lot of book signings scheduled. Everything was canceled. But I also knew that I wrote the book in the perfect time. I just did. I held on to that. And then on April 5th, I was connected with a woman named Slavica Bogdanov. She's the owner of Empowering Entertainment. It's a film production company. So long story short, I signed a movie deal on April 5th with Empowering Entertainment. So Fighting Chance is currently in development for a feature film. So Slavica saw the value of it and the value of just a story, an empowering story for women. And I'm very proud to say that 10% of all the proceeds made from our film are going to go to a nonprofit organization that serves women, battered women, and or children. So Slavica's heart is in the right place. I'm very honored to align with such an amazing woman and very excited to see where this goes, because my whole purpose with Fighting Chance was to make a difference. I believed that my story needed to be told. It was hard for me to write that book. It only took me 20 years because I didn't want people to know these things that happened to me. Mm-hmm. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. But then I thought, no, I have to be honest and I have to be vulnerable, because that's what's going to touch the hearts of other people, is me being vulnerable and sharing these pieces of myself. But I believe I did the right thing because the feedback has been wonderful. And the best feedback are from women that I don't even know, who have been in domestic violence relationships, who got out of them, who had to start over, who had to admit that they were a statistic, but then realized that they were stronger than they thought they were. That's so right. When I get those emails from these women, then I know I'm in the right place and I know I did the right thing, and everything has fallen into place exactly how it's supposed to. And I'm just so grateful and I feel so honored that this opportunity has dropped in my lap. I'm very lucky.
Well, it definitely came to the right person, one who's able to not only help women who are a part of domestic violence, but I think back about the children. You had a very traumatic childhood, and you're able to understand that place in a child. Mm-hmm. You're probably able to even see it in certain kids, and it's opened up a place. So I wouldn't be surprised that before your days are over that, that something would come where you would be able to address just the kids, just like kids' gloves. And I'm so glad that it's still around and still serving people. And because you really, in your own way, you have served those kids by showing them, boxing can be your way out of this mindset and push you beyond these terrible things that happen to you when you're a kid. So you're a great lady.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And I love the kids, and I'm still involved at Kid Gloves. I'm a volunteer coach there with the children's and the young adult class. And the kids are wonderful. And I would say the majority of them do come from broken homes. They come in, they're really good students. They're wonderful. Yes, I can see when something has happened to them. I can see it on their faces when they walk in. I don't push for information, but I do let them know I love them unconditionally. And I'm certainly there for them to talk to. Yes. But just me being present with them and being consistently there for them, I believe helps them. And every once in a while, I can see that their minds are wandering, that they're not there. And I will remind them, look, this is your house. This is your time. When you step into this place, all your problems are left outside. This is all about you, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. But yes, it's also heartbreaking too when some kids come in. I can tell something happened to them. I don't know what. So all I do is I might give them a little bit more attention. I might even be a little stricter with them with their routines, because it gets their mind off of the outside world. It puts their mind into the present. And I want them to know how strong they are.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The resilience is there. You're building resilience in those kids, and they need it now, and they're definitely going to need it later in
Yeah.
their lives. Gosh,
Yeah.
so many things have happened in the last 20 years, even within your own self. I feel and understand your resilience and your strength. And gosh, like I say, I'm going to make sure everybody has access to that footage, because it is just, you were a chubby kid, and
Yeah.
I mean bullied, all of that. So it's
Oh
almost
yeah.
like nobody can say, but Alicia, you don't understand. It's almost like you can say, you just don't know my story. You're gonna have to get my book, Fighting Chance, because everything you're talking about, I've been there, done that, I have lived, and I'm on the other side of it. So you can help a lot of people, a lot of kids.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you so much for getting it, and and seeing the book, and the depth of it, because it's so much deeper than the sport of boxing. But yes, I mean, my highest weight was 200 pounds. I was miserable. I'm not very tall. I'm only 5'3", so that's a lot of weight for that person of that height, and just dealing with that. Of course, that was tough. We live in a society where people that are overweight, they're just not treated the same. So I had to battle with that, and that was a lot of an inner struggle too. But even that goes back to self-love, because just because I was overweight doesn't mean I wasn't lovable. I just was, raised under this belief that I had to be thin to be loved. And I don't regret that at all either, because, it just showed me what people, just certain perspectives of people and how they view people. I personally just found that when I'm at a lower weight, I feel better. So I have been able to stay in shape. I'm 50 years old now. I'm still at fighting weight, which I'm very proud of. Very
Yeah.
proud of that, because that's discipline as well. But that's just because I feel most empowered when I'm healthy. And so I'm happy to give that advice away to anybody that wants it, because it's not always easy. I love food. That hasn't changed. I still have that kid mentality. I want to eat everything in sight, but it's a daily discipline thing. And but that all comes together with my overall empowerment. And I love giving that away to people when they ask me, and especially when they see my before picture, they can't believe it. Yeah.
All
So
I can say is I have enjoyed this conversation with you, Alicia Doyle, the author of Fighting Chance. It's just an amazing book that goes so much deeper, as you said, than boxing. It's a marriage between the psychological and the spiritual, and just life and life's happenings. And it's married with one of the few female boxers in America in the night, I think in 1990s. So
yes.
it's quite a story. And I'm so glad it's going to the silver screen. I'm gonna be praying, just take it on, just take it all the way. I see it on Lifetime and just everywhere, because it's not, you wrote it for, you are a woman. And the story would definitely, women will identify with it. But I think when people watch it, when they are exposed to it, when they read your book, men should pick up a copy also, because the lessons and the strength and everything that's put into it, I can see how it applies to a man trying to rebound and coming out of the shadows of things that so easily hurt them, but that's another story. That's another story.
Well, and I love that you bring up the male aspect as well, because I do need to point out that I was very fortunate that I attracted trainers and coaches who did not objectify me. I was very, very lucky. They looked at me as an athlete, period. So, and another thing that I discovered in boxing is boxers are some of the greatest gentlemen I have ever met in my life. And you would think that I had this construct of who these people were and who these men were before I went into the sport. And when I met these guys, and as tough as they are, and some of them are tattooed from top to bottom, and they're the softest, sweetest, most vulnerable men I've ever met in my life. So, and we had this common understanding of what this sport did to us. I mean, we literally shed blood, sweat, and tears aside and along together. So it was a very special relationship. I was very lucky to be inducted into this brotherhood of men. I had to work very hard for it. I had to work twice as hard for it. But once I earned their respect, I was one of them. I was their little sister. It was beautiful. It was the most amazing relationship. And I still have those relationships to this day.
I remember reading one part of your book where I think it was Stan who just really stressed safety, and he did not want to see you get knocked out. He did not want to see you get hurt, and he was extremely hard on you so that you would keep your hands up and you would just in sync with the sport. So that's very beautiful what you say and how you relate to the men. Alicia, tell us where we can get a copy of your book, please.
Thank you. Yes. So Fighting Chance is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. You can get it online at any of those places. You can certainly go on my website, aliciadoyle.com. There's lots of information there, and there's links there that will take you directly to Amazon and Barnes and Noble if you want to purchase it that way. And then if people want an autograph copy, they just have to reach out to me directly, which is easy at aliciadoyle.com. And that's for an autograph copy.
Okay. I think that you probably better go ahead and get a copy, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to the silver screen and we don't know what's after that. So, and it is just a heartwarming book. I thought it would be hard to read boxing. And I mean, she looks so rough and tough on the cover. It's a beautiful cover, but it's like, oh my God, what am I about to enter into? And then it's not any of that. It's so well written until it was hard to put down. An easy read, a constant read. And you just had to, I've had 5 interviews back to back. That's the only thing that stopped me. I was like, it was just like, you just want to know more. And how does she unfold from this mindset? How does she walk away from this side of darkness? How does she move away from this feeling, and how does she keep her weight down? It's like all of those things, man, because waiting in time, and you were always right there. I mean, you are professional. You took it to heart, and when you showed up, you showed up. I had to cheer for you, honey. I had to cheer for you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for appreciating that. That means so much to me. And yes, and a lot of life is just being ready. That's something that was always emphasized with me in the boxing. My coaches were, you just got to be ready. Always got to be ready. Always got to be ready. And because fights would fall apart all the time, I would drop, 12 pounds and show up. And if there was no girl to fight, then I'd, just get an automatic win. But I was always ready. And I think about that now, 20 years later, I just always want to be ready. And for me, keeping the weight down, for me, that's part of always being ready. I do meditate daily. I'm a very spiritual person. I have very strong faith. I hone those skills every day. And that's part of me being ready, because being ready is just being able to wake up every day and face life. Yes. That's it. And when you're ready, then it can be a really beautiful journey.
I tell you what an awesome way to close out an incredible conversation. All of December, November, and December, and I don't timestamp things, but because we are in the throes of COVID, I want people to understand that there are fabulous people telling their story, standing ready to inspire you through all of this, I don't know, and some measure of negativity. I have Alicia Doyle here today, who is really just opening up with pure, undiluted inspiration. So this is the kind of, these are the conversations that I have to bring everybody, that I have to bring to the world. So Alicia, thank you for being here. My heart is just pumping. This is enormous for me. Thank you. A million thanks.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor to be on your show, and I'm so happy that we connected. And I don't believe it was an accident that we connected. So I am just so grateful to you for spreading and raising awareness of positive news, especially now when people are really starving for inspiration. That's something you do all the time. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Well, we could go on, and I tell you what, once things develop and she knows more about what's going on in the movie industry with Fighting Chance, then she'll have to come back. And that's another level of inspiration to let people know, hey, what you started, you never know where it's going to end up. Just know that there's greatness wrapped up with it. So just in people being able to hear her story today, it's all wrapped up in greatness. So for everyone, I want you to stay safe. Do not be ashamed of where you've been. Work on what you're doing, where you're going. As Alicia said, stay ready. Okay? I'm Margot Levette. I'll be back next week with another episode right here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
This episode is supported by Podcast Academy Online.com. Learn to podcast at your pace, built for adults and busy entrepreneurs. Podcast Academy Online.com. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.